So you just read Ultra Heaven and you don't really know what happened. Well, that's okay because I'm here to explain it to you in 30 minutes. Okay, so in short, Ultra Heaven is about the meaning of life, a topic that has been tackled by all religions in the world, and it does actually come to the same conclusions as they do. Specifically, the manga shows the process in which someone understands the meaning of life by realizing the three truths of reality. It's very similar to the Four Noble Truths from Buddhism, where if you realize all four, you can reach enlightenment. So, the first truth is to realize that life is suffering and that reality is an illusion. The setting of Ultra Heaven is used to depict an extreme example of this, a dystopian world where everyone is on drugs that can make you feel anything at any time. It's a world where everything is fake, even your feelings. Our protagonist, Kabu, is someone who has realized this. He's a suicidal junkie who has given up on life and decides to escape reality by doing an insane amount of drugs, searching for the highest high. That's the main point of the first half of Volume 1. It starts with Kabu going to a pump bar to kill himself by taking two drugs at the same time. Why? Because it's said that when you die, you release the ultimate chemical DMT, giving you the highest high. And because pump bars can't let people overdose and die in them, they would try to revive the junkies even if they don't want to. So it's a game where you intentionally die to get high. It's used to emphasize how much Kabu doesn't care about life. But as we know, the bartender notices and he doesn't give Kabu the drug. Instead, he gives him the Nova Express, a powerful drug cocktail. In the first trip, Kabu experiences the process of rebirth. He enters the universal consciousness, symbolized by water. We see the Big Bang, and Kabu turns back into a baby in the hands of his mother. And because of this, Kabu's potential is awakened. Kind of. After the trip, the two guys at the bar turn out to be hygiene agents who recognize Kabu's potential and plan to guide him to the stairway to heaven. To enlightenment, basically. Kabu has the potential to ascend because he believes that life is meaningless and he is completely detached from it. This belief is the first step of Kabu's character arc. After the bar, we go to Kabu's apartment. We meet Sally and Seven. Sally goes on an amplifier trip and Seven takes Pagila with Kabu. After the trip, Kabu talks about doing the bar suicide thing before we even get to the bar scene. So he died and came back to life, a rebirth. When he died, he had an out-of-body experience. When he came back to life, he felt like he was going far away, like returning to an old home, with the imagery of the mountains. The mountains indicate a place or a transition area between life and death. Life lies within the river, water symbolizing the source of life, unconscious, and also a transition area, River Styx, Sanzu River. Then Kabu says it's like returning to an old home because it's said that when we die, we come back to where we came from. Whether it be the universal consciousness, God, heaven, you revisit your karma, have a flashback of your life. The point is that there's comfort but also a bittersweet sadness in death, which is exactly what Kabu feels. He feels a certain sadness in death. But something's off. Why? Because deep down inside, he knows that if life is truly meaningless, he wouldn't feel sad about dying and coming back to life. He wouldn't shed a tear. But he does. So there must be a deeper meaning. That's why he has a little flashback of people hoping that he lives. This subconscious realization and rebirth awakens Kabu's spiritual potential, which is why when Sally looks at Kabu's aura, it's bright and gleaming. This is the next step of Kabu's arc, realizing that he has potential. The next scene shows this as well. We meet Mr. Walleye, who gets abused by some hygiene agents to show that they are corrupt oppressors, a little world building. Then he's forcefully awakening this guy with an amp, dissolving him in the universal consciousness in the mountains. But Mr. Walleye lets him go because he's searching for someone who has potential. And that's when Kabu walks by on his way to the bar in the beginning, his aura brighter than everyone else's. This means that the Nova Express at the bar, it didn't awaken his potential. It didn't make him reborn with the Big Bang and all that. It just showed him what's inside. His potential is already there because of his beliefs, which is what the next scene is about. We meet Mrs. Scarf in the mall. They talk about this mysterious drug that's more powerful than everything else, where you can't tell the difference between dreams and reality. Mrs. Scarf says that people die using it. Kabu then states his philosophy, that the world is make-believe and he wants the best of the fake, that he'd welcome death with open arms if he can have an awesome dream, volunteering himself for the drug. Mrs. Scarf then says Kabu reminds him of his friend who took the drug, how he predicted everything a person's gonna do before he does it. He then jumps off to his death because he thinks it's a dream. And then Kabu jumps off as well. But he doesn't die. He just floats and wakes up back in his apartment. How did that happen? Well, this is all just a dream, a flashback of what already happened. Kabu's true self is sleeping, both figuratively and literally. His real body is asleep and his other self is also asleep. But it's time to wake up. After taking a shower, Kabu goes to the park with Sally. Kabu sits on a bench, she goes away to grab some drinks. He notices Mr. Walleye walk into him and predicts what he will do, just like Mrs. Scarf's friend. And yes, he's here to sell him drugs. They abandon Sally, Mr. Walleye gives Kabu the mysterious drug, and Kabu is off the dream world. So the beginning of the trip shows us the surface of who Kabu is, the first layer of his self. I'm not going to cover everything here, just 2 important points. First is him getting his hand stuck on the wall and the tree. It symbolizes his inability to move on from his past. He's stuck to the trauma of his mother's death, because as a child, Kabu lays his palm on her face while she's dead. Second is Kabu being abused by the cops. Again, corrupt oppressors showing that life is suffering. But what's important is that Kabu shot them in the eye and the forehead, because it'll be referenced later. After shooting them, Kabu meets Mr. Walleye on the bridge. They talk about the drug. Mr. Walleye calls it Ultra Heaven and says that it can show you a dream more real than reality. Now that's paradise. What does this mean? Well, Ultra Heaven is set in a world where everything is fake, where drugs can completely manipulate a person's reality, right? So here's a question. If our 5 senses, our feelings, everything can be faked, then what's real? Is nothing real? No, there is something. In fact, there's only one thing that's real. Our mind. I think, therefore I am. René Descartes said that, hey, what if there's a demon controlling us, manipulating our 5 senses, feeding us a false dream, like the Matrix? Is anything real then? Does anything exist? Yes, we exist because we are thinking. As long as we doubt, we exist. Thinking is our proof of existence. It cannot be faked. Thus, at least in Ultra Heaven terms, it can be said that our mind is more real than reality itself. And the mind contains the truth behind our reality, the meaning of it all. And what does Ultra Heaven do? It shows you what's inside your mind. It shows you the truth. This is the next step of understanding the meaning of life, that the truth lies inside our mind. Ultra Heaven, as well as the amplifier in Volume 2, is a means to explore the mind. And by exploring, we can find the truth. That truth is the paradise Mr. Walleye was talking about. So if we want to reach that truth, we must go deeper in the mind. You want to escape from a bad, nasty dream? You just jump into another one. Which is why Kabu takes Ultra Heaven again, in the dream. The spiral design symbolizing a journey into the mind. Anyways, the cops approach Kabu on the bridge. A voice tells him to get out of this nightmare, while an eyeball stares at Kabu in the water. It's his other self trying to reach Kabu from the unconscious. Kabu turns around to realize that it's the same 2 cops he shot before, in the eye and the forehead, which means that this is a dream. And then he gets shot right in the forehead, symbolizing the opening of his 3rd eye, which allows you to look inside the inner world. That's what we see next. Kabu's body is floating amongst the bubbles, his body shatters, and we see the real Kabu unconscious being experimented on in the hygiene department by the 2 agents from the bar. This is the true reality. This is his true self, literally sleeping, which means that the present is actually the past. It's a flashback. In this scene, we see Kabu being literally reborn. As the agents say, his brain is dying but also being created. The bubbles scatter and congregate into one body. This body is Kabu's other self, his true self, called the Atman, a Hindu concept. In Hinduism, reaching the true self is likened to paradise or heaven. It's exactly the same in this manga. Atman is the ultimate goal. So Kabu is floating in the mountains, a place between life and death, a bridge to the divine. But Kabu's not ready to ascend because he hasn't explored his mind yet. He just knows that there's something there. That's why he falls down into the river. Back to the flashback inside of the pond, as Mr. Wale laughs at him in both dimensions. If you're wondering who Mr. Wale is, it's not clear, but I think he's a guide. You know, a wise old man like Gandalf, or the cave guy from Zelda. Anyways, Volume 1 ends there. Let's recap. First off, the meaning of life, which are the three truths of reality. First, life is suffering and reality is fake. 2, our mind is more real than reality. It's where the truth lies. And third, well, we don't know yet, but we do know that we have to explore the mind to get the answer. Next is Kabu's character arc. First, he believes that life is meaningless, reality is fake, chases the highest high, doesn't mind dying. You know the deal. And then second, because of Kabu's philosophy and rebirth, his spiritual potential is awakened. And then, once awakened, Kabu subconsciously realizes that life has meaning, and the answer lies inside of him. Then finally, Ultra Heaven amplifies this feeling to the point that it consumes Kabu's life. He can't think of anything other than the truth as his psychic powers manifest in reality. Volume 2 starts with Mr. Walleye telling Kabu that 1. The drug only shows you what's inside your mind, 2. There's a wormhole inside of Kabu, and he has a diseased man's aura. Kabu realizes reality is fake and has no desire or attachment to life. That's the disease. And 3. Sick people need to make sure of their own sickness. Kabu knows that something is beyond this fake reality, and he needs to know what it is. So it's basically Kabu's character arc summarized. Thanks, Mr. Walleye. Next, he walks back, sees Sally, and he looks into the future, which will happen a lot. Kabu's psychic powers awaken, messing with the timeline, and he can't control it. Kabu hugs Sally, she slaps him, and we go back to the apartment. Then Kabu cooks spaghetti without realizing the timeline is all jumbly, the spaghetti flies, there's a flash to the rainy dream world, and Kabu douses himself in the sink. Then they watch the meditation center guys on TV. They talk about how the mind can literally affect reality by changing matter, as in psychic powers. And then they bend the spoon. Kabu's watching like, oh my god, that's me IRL right now. So he asks Sally about his aura, and she goes to get the amplifiers. While she's gone, Kabu decides to meditate like they said on TV, and he visits the spaghetti moment before to douse himself in the water, which brings him to the rainy city, and he's shot by the agents in the forehead again, opening his third eye to see his true self sleeping. This is the continuation of Volume 1's vision, and as they say, he's reprocessing memory. He's exploring his mind. Anyway, Sally comes back, they put on the amp, and they're off to Dream World. The beginning of the trip is one of the best sequences in manga history, but I'm not going to cover it. The point is that the amplifier synchronizes both users into one, and that there's 4 levels. Level 1 and 2 is the surface, and level 3 and 4 is where the real flashback happens. So in level 3, we see Kabu's trauma of his mother. First, she leaves him behind in a shopping aisle, then she forcibly takes him on an escalator while he's looking around amazed by the mall. On the escalator, Kabu doesn't recognize his mom since there's no beauty mark. That's her identifier. Because of her drug addiction, she's turned into a different person for Kabu. We then find out Kabu's lived as an orphan, not much love in his life, and then Kabu's mom takes a drug saying that we're going to heaven, as people party on the roller coaster. This is her idea of heaven, a degenerate, drug-filled utopia where anything is possible, a land of brightness and fun. In the next scene, she dies, and the doctors say, yeah, she's in heaven. And now Kabu's confused. He thinks his mom left him for heaven. They take a break, but Kabu's like, nah, we move on. And child Kabu goes to see his mother's dead body. His mom looks like she's just sleeping, but people are crying. Kabu doesn't understand the concept of death, and he's confused. In reality, he just wants to be with his mom again. And this is where his subconscious urge for death comes from. He imitates his mom's drug addiction to go to heaven to be with her. We're now at level 4. Kabu's going crazy with the amp and his mother's face turns frozen, buried in the mountains. The coldness of her dead body is represented by the cold mountains. And Kabu turning frozen means that he wants to be like her, dead. As a result, Kabu flatlines and Sally screams because she can feel everything that he's feeling. And she doesn't want to die. Sally gathers her resolve and takes Alice to save him. We go to Kabu's past with him imitating his mother, cooking spaghetti. The fact is, Kabu hasn't forgotten how his mother really is. A kind single mother who tried her best. We know this because Kabu still remembers the spaghetti recipe. He still remembers her love. And while that's a good thing, Kabu is still clinging onto that memory a little too much, thinking that he can't live without her, failing to cook the spaghetti by himself as a child. But Kabu is no longer a child. He can cook on his own, just like he did for Sally. The answer is there, Kabu just needs to realize it. And that's where Sally comes in. Sally is a new source of love for Kabu. I don't know if it's romantic or not, but she does care for him. And as much as Kabu acts like he doesn't like it, it gives him life. That's why when Sally dissolves into bubbles, we see the moments where Sally showed her love for him, and also the moment Kabu hugs her. He needs that love. Sally's gonna make him realize it. In the dream, Sally tries touching Kabu, but it passes through him as he resets back, clinging to his past, worshipping the pillar of spaghetti. He's afraid of leaving his mother behind if he accepts Sally's love, but obviously that's not true. And then Kabu gets consumed by spaghetti, Sally follows her to the tree, and eventually to his past. Kabu gets frozen like his mom as he wants to die with her, but Sally keeps reminding him that it's an illusion. Don't let it tie you down. You can cook spaghetti on your own, and Kabu finally accepts his mother's death. Kind of. You don't just get over your trauma like that. But it is a start. So Kabu wishes his mom good night. Sally stands over Kabu, washing the spaghetti down the sink as he is no longer consumed by his trauma. Then the gate to awareness opens while a flashback of people wishing him well shows up. Yes, this is the meaning of life. Love. The bonds we share with other people. It's as simple as that. That's what lies in the deepest part of our mind. The thing that's more real than reality itself is the paradise Mr. Walleye was talking about. So it's basically the same answer as all religions. And it's the only answer, really. Okay, next we see a voice saying, remember, you have another self looking at you, referring to the universal consciousness, the ultimate bond that connects us all. As Kabu and Sally, fused into one, flies over the mountains and earth, the union of masculine and feminine symbolizing divinity, as they realize the truth. Volume 2 ends with an invite to the meditation center. Now you might be thinking, doesn't this mean that Kabu's arc is completed? Well, no. Two things. First, while we might know the meaning of life, which is love, Kabu has not fully realized it. He hasn't put it into practice yet. Because if you want bonds, you need other people. And at this point, it's just Sally. And he hasn't even shown that much love to her. So this is what he needs to solve his main conflict, which is the second point. Now, Kabu knows who he really is, where it all came from, the details of his trauma, which is nice, but there's a problem. If every aspect of him, his philosophy, drug addiction, is all from the trauma of his mother, that's his main identity, right? Preaching to everyone that life is meaningless and we should all just get high. This belief defines him, and it turned out to be a lie. It all came from his mother. After Volume 2, Kabu realizes that even his own beliefs are fake. So, who is the real me? He asks himself, who are you? This question is asked on the first page of the third volume, which is about Kabu's identity crisis. But before we go to Volume 3, a quick recap. Firstly, the meaning of life, we found out what it is. It's love. Love gives life meaning, and we found it by exploring the mind. And then for Kabu's character arc, in Volume 2, he uses the amp with Sally to explore his mind. Then we find out that Kabu's mother neglected him as a child because of her drug addiction, describes heaven as a drug-filled utopia. She overdoses and dies, doctor says she's in heaven, and Kabu's confused. Then he wants to go after his mom in heaven because he can't accept her death. He becomes a drug addict and chases death because of this. Then Kabu is stuck in a dream that shows his trauma over and over. Kabu is clinging on to his mother's love. He believes that he can't live without her. Then Sally lets Kabu know that he can take care of himself. Don't let the past tie you down. There are other people who care about him. There's another self looking at you. Love gives life meaning. After knowing his origins, Kabu experiences an identity crisis because he realizes his beliefs are fake. It all came from his mother. He can't accept that he is his past. He also hasn't fully accepted the idea of love. And that's where Volume 3 starts. We begin with the living god in the future getting experimented on, visiting Kabu's past by synchronizing with him and asking him the question that's been plaguing him. Who are you? This happens while Kabu is going crazy in the drome. But then we go to the present, which I guess is a flashback. So I'm gonna skip to when they meet the three stooges, Imagine, Arthur, and Andy. They talk a little bit, then Kabu enters the drome by synchronizing with a literal collective consciousness, saying I am it is me, realizing that the personal and collective consciousness are one of the same. We are all connected. The key is that we can access this connection with love. We'll see that later. Next, the three stooges introduce Kabu to the drome, and then they meet Sally, who is a witch. You know, Sally the witch. She fights the veterans of the drome as well as the masters later on. This conflict is used to show that the less desire you have, the more powerful you are and the closer you are to enlightenment. It also shows that you need to balance chaos and order. The veterans believe that the drome should be a space for pure meditation, no pleasure or distraction. They're too skewed towards order, and they even get consumed by anger. Then Sally wants the drome to be a party 24/7, chasing pleasure, which is a little too chaotic and self-indulgent. And then we meet the masters, Soga, Furubashi, and Amaki, who are named after Ultra 7 characters, by the way. They are in the middle of chaos and order with the least desire. That's why Soga talks about people's lack of balance, because balance is the true path to enlightenment. Same as what Buddha said, the middle way. But Soga isn't actually in the middle. He still has desires, namely pride. He takes too much pride in his powers and looks down on people. Kabu, who of course has almost no desire, calls him out on this by roasting Soga's ears. That's why he's the GOAT. Soga gets pissed and forces Kabu to awaken through Shaktipat, which is the transmission of a guru's spiritual energy to a student or recipient to help them awaken. The idea is that the guy who's transmitting is on a higher level of consciousness, and by receiving this higher level energy, the recipient can awaken more easily. These levels are shown by the 7 chakras, and the last 3 actually correspond to each of the Ultra Heaven volumes. The throat chakra represents volume 1. Its effect is, as Amaki says, he can no longer tell the difference between reality and illusion. Sound familiar? The brow, or the third eye chakra, represents volume 2. Amaki says, all sense of distinction between yourself and others is gone. You become one with the world. It's about love and the universal consciousness. So volume 3 must be about the 7th chakra, the crown chakra, enlightenment. Well, yes, but Kabu doesn't actually reach it. More on that later. Anyway, Soga is able to access the 6th chakra, and so Kabu's brow chakra awakens, revealing his archetype. In this case, your archetype is what shaped you to be the person you are now, core moments in your life. For Kabu, it's his childhood trauma of his mother and the oppressive drug-filled society that he's a part of. By activating the 6th chakra, Kabu enters the universal consciousness, I am it is me. He synchronizes with the masters and the drome, resulting in the spaghetti, hygiene agents, and the stuck hand. Soga then morphs into the hygiene agent, his appearance imitating an all-powerful Hindu god. He carries weapons, a syringe, and the head of Kabu's mother, symbolizing the oppression they've done through drugs and violence, resulting in her death. Kabu gets shot in the forehead again, fully opening his brow chakra, and he disappears into the real world. his other self takes control of him and kills the masters. Kabu flies away, and now the drome is being consumed by his archetype of the mountains. Then the fountain bursts and floods the drome, water symbolizing the unconscious and the flood symbolizing a new beginning. Kabu floats in the water while the living god observes him with Buddha's eye. The living god chases Kabu, trying to synchronize with him. Kabu tries to run, but it's too late. He is now in the place of the living god's crown chakra. He's about to get Shaktipated. But before that, we go to the development bureau, where people notice that there's trouble in the drome. They contact Babel, which is where we start off this volume. Babel, of course, humans trying to be God, the living god. Back in the drome, everyone's standing and the living god shows up. He splits the ocean to Shaktipat Kabu, awakening Kabu's 7th chakra. As you can see, his 7 awakened chakras. He does a T-pose to imitate Jesus' cross, symbolizing a gift of divinity to Kabu. I'll explain how it got there in a bit. First, let's talk about the living god. The living god represents Atman, the true ideal self that we call paradise. He is 100% fused with the collective unconscious, and he will reflect Kabu's true self onto himself. Now, the living god's divinity is not a pure one. He achieves it using amplifiers. So he's both a human and God at the same time, kind of like Jesus, but with amplifiers. He sort of fills a savior role for Kabu, but his motives aren't clear. In theory, he should be good because you need like 0 desire to be enlightened, but his actions don't line up, and he's also a cult leader, which is what the living god usually refers to in Japanese, Hitogami or Ikigami. You can look it up. Anyway, we go back to Babel. They say the land of light is in the drome, and we see a clear light enveloping the drome. The land of light represents heaven, a reference to Ultraman's home planet, the land of light. There's actually a long explanation on how Ultraman, Christianity, and Ultra Heaven are connected. You can watch the Volume 3 analysis for that. But in short, 1. The land of light is heaven. 2. The cross symbolizes salvation and the gift of divinity. 3. Light is how divinity is represented. 4. That divinity is love. And 5. We all have that divinity inside of us. We can tap into it with love and become just like God. All you need to do is connect the Holy Spirit with love and Ultraman with Jesus, and you got the allegory. Moving on, Kabu's archetypes are now manifested more intensely and clearly with the living god's help. And now Kabu's most important archetype appears to show us who he really is, his ideas of heaven. There are 4 of them. The first one represents Kabu's philosophy from Volume 1, a drug-filled world where people are just high all the time because reality doesn't matter anymore. You see lotuses covering the water, symbolizing enlightenment, but it's a fake enlightenment, as pumps are laid on top of the lotuses for people to consume. In Volume 1, Kabu thinks he has it all figured out, but as we know, Kabu's philosophy is caused by something deeper within him, which is why you see Spaghetti wrapping everyone up. Kabu is getting wrapped up by the trauma of his mother. Which leads us to the second idea of heaven, his mother's, a degenerate drug paradise. Sally asks Kabu, "Is this your idea of paradise?" He asks her back, "What's paradise?" This shows that Kabu doesn't fully believe in his nihilistic philosophy. He's just trying to make sense of his mother's words, actions, and of course death. Child Kabu thinks his mom left him after seeing her dead body, and as a coping mechanism, he blocks out the memory of his mother. But as a result of doing that, there lies an emptiness within him, a wormhole. From that hole, a spaghetti monster appears. Why a spaghetti monster? Because there is a part of Kabu that villainizes his mother for leaving him and getting addicted to drugs. Thus, an evil monster is created to represent her. Now, of course, if there's a monster, there must also be a hero to defeat it. And thus, Ultraman comes in. Ultra Heaven. This is the third idea of heaven, to completely destroy the memory of his mother. After watching Ultraman, Kabu believes that if there's an evil, there should be a hero from the land of light to defeat it. And that's where Ultra Heaven comes from. It represents Kabu. Anyways, Sally tries to stop Kabu because she knows that the monster is his mom. Then, after grabbing him, she realizes that Kabu's being taken over by the living god's Shaktipat. Which brings us back to the central question of Volume 3. Who are you? Kabu's attempt to kill the memory of his mother is the result of the living god urging him, pressuring him to resolve his identity crisis. So in order to create an original identity of himself, free of pain, he decides to forget his trauma. It's a shortcut, a distorted one. Sally understands this and meditates to sync with Kabu, and we transition from Ultra Heaven standing over the monster to Kabu's old room. His mother hugs him from behind the same way the spaghetti does. This is the fourth idea of heaven, the correct one, that represents love. Kabu is reminded of his mother's love for him, and it shatters the previous idea that he needs to become a hero and defeat the monster. Ultra Heaven is caught by the monster in a crucifix and explodes in a ray of light to parallel the hug. It's basically the same as Volume 2's ending. The difference is that now Kabu is involved with other people besides Sally. Which brings us to the ending. After Sally hugs Kabu, he mentions that it's not over. Heaven's not gonna end just like that. This week is part 1 and next week we get the sequel. Then we're placed back in the dome to witness Ultra Heaven in a cross of ice. We then transition from the cross to the living god in Babel. They ask him, why come to the drum if not for the land of light? He answers, in the drum there was a hole that led to the land of light. Now the light is sealed away and is waiting for release. Ultra Heaven ends there. So let's start with the cross of ice. This is a reference to Ultra 7, episode 39 and 40, titled The 7 Assassination Plan, where Ultra 7 thought he can beat the aliens alone without any help, but they beat him and trap him inside a crystal cross to later execute him. He needs to be saved by humanity, and he did get saved. Then of course, he beats up the aliens. The point is that to defeat evil, you must rely on other people. You must tap into the power of bonds and love, because that's where real power comes from. It's the same in Ultra Heaven. Kabu is crucified in a block of ice because all the water from the flood is now frozen, trapping Kabu within the unconscious, kind of like Akira or Shinji in the LCL. The gift of divinity from the living god turns into a prison because Kabu's not ready to accept love from other people, even though he does have some bonds. My theory is that the living god sealed Kabu in the cross to save him from dissolving into the universal consciousness. But why? Because the living god wants to explore Kabu's potential and experiment with it. He knows that Kabu can ascend. That's why he says that there was a hole leading to the land of light. That hole was inside of Kabu. The hole contains the true self. The true self is likened to heaven, and heaven is of course a land of light. Now is he evil? Maybe. He almost made Kabu kill the memory of his mother, and Kabu does end up in the hygiene department in the true reality. So I don't know, maybe he's just amoral. Either way, Kabu needs the power of love to be free. He needs to be saved by his friends, just like 7 when he got crucified. Ultra Heaven is not over yet. Just like the 7 assassination plan, this is only the first part. 7 only gets saved in the second episode, which is why Child Kabu says those things to Sally. Next week, we get the sequel. This is why Ultra Heaven is in a hiatus. There should be a volume 4 because Kabu's arc is incomplete. So it's not because it's symbolic or whatever. Good guess, but no. And that's it. Kabu is imprisoned in the drome by the living god, waiting to be saved by his friends while he's sleeping in the hygiene department. Or maybe meditation center, I don't know. The end. Now, a recap of Volume 3. We'll go straight to Kabu's character arc. First, Kabu and Sally go to the drome. Sally fights the veterans and masters to show people who are attached to desire, unlike Kabu. Then Kabu gets awakened by Soga up to the 6th chakra. Kabu kills the masters and takes over the drome. 3. The living god comes, awakens Kabu's 7th chakra. As a result, his archetypes are manifested more intensely, representing his ideas of heaven. 4. Because of the living god's Shaktipat, Kabu wants to kill the distorted memory of his mother to cope with her death and resolve his identity crisis. 5. Sally saves Kabu by reminding him of his mother's love, as well as other people's love for him, again. But Kabu fails to awaken his 7th chakra because he hasn't fully realized his love. 6. Kabu is imprisoned by the living god in a cross of ice, stuck in the unconscious, waiting to be saved by the people that care for him in Volume 4. All the bullet points are in the pinned comment if you want to see a deeper analysis of the symbolism. I suggest going straight to the volume 3 video, and if you like it, you can watch the second one and then the first one. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you understand Ultra Heaven. Goodbye.